Thank you. So talking about managing bathing in dementia care and how difficult it can be, right? I was saying, you know, it is a self-care activity, or it's an activity of daily living, is what we call it here in healthcare. And you'll see ADLs kind of written out through the slides as well. It's an activity of daily living that includes bathing, eating, getting dressed, shaving, using the restroom, those things. The things that we do without thinking about it every day. We do it how we want to. Until there comes a point where we can't do it anymore, or we can't do it without assistance. That's when we think about it, right? Our ability or our inability to perform these self-care activities is a measurement of our functional status. And our functional status is a major influencer in our quality of life. And this is an actual measurement that can be done for stress scales or burden scales, function scales in individuals. And it has been shown over and over again that individuals that have a lower functional status is a major influence on their quality of life. Not just for the person with the diagnosis or the person with the lower functioning status, but also for their caregiver. And that has been shown with, particularly with individuals with dementia and their caregivers, their ability to function and do these self-care activities is a huge influence on quality of life and on burden and stress as well. With dementia, and as there is a continuous decline in their abilities because of what's happening to their brain and their capacity to perform these ADLs or these self-care activities, and really affects their independence and their dignity, right? And a lot of the times this decline in functional status starts with just some thinking issues. Maybe I didn't remember that I needed to do this, or time has gone by and I'm not aware of how much time has gone by, so now it's been a week since I've showered. Or I'm not exactly sure how to get started. Just a thinking thing. The actual physical act of doing it is still there. It's just the thinking challenges that come along with it. As dementia progresses, you will start to see more physical challenge or the ability to actually physically perform the activity decline. Challenges that come with bathing in dementia. There's a list here. It's not a complete list, but it's pretty good. I think one of the biggest things why bathing is so hard in dementia care is because of the embarrassment. And when you are helping somebody or you're being helped with the shower, you're exposed and you're vulnerable. We have been showering or bathing most of our lives by ourselves, right? We don't need anybody else in there. And now all of a sudden somebody's in there and I'm exposed and I'm vulnerable and this isn't right or it's not normal. So there can be a lot of challenges or pushback from that. It can be frustration or anger at the loss of ability or loss of independence, whether it's a conscious, logical thought about, yes, I can't do this anymore, or it's just an awareness of, I'm not able to do like I used to, or why is somebody in here helping me? Mm-hmm. There can be a fear of falling or slipping or just safety in general. And memory loss, I mentioned this, the awareness of time does go away, and that's an early thing that happens in somebody with dementia, just how much time has passed, I'm not aware of it. So it could be 30 minutes or it could be 3 weeks and I'm just not aware of what that means or what that looks like in time. So it might be 3 days have gone by and I really think that I just bathed this morning. Mm-hmm. An act of rebellion, and this can be a characteristic of somebody, or it can just be, you don't need to tell me what to do. And we've all kind of been there when somebody told us what to do. Maybe we didn't do it, or we did the opposite, or we dragged our feet doing it, right? Just that rebellious part of us comes with our independence and our autonomy. It can be depression or just a lack of caring. And most people with dementia also will experience depression, at least in some stage of the disease. It can just be really uncomfortable or just overall discomfort. The bathroom can be cold, it can be uninviting, there can be just having a hard time removing the clothes. Of course, the exposure, I'm uncomfortable when I'm exposed too. A lot of the times it's just cold. I'm cold. I've got my jacket on today. I'm cold and I want to be comfortable. That need to be comfortable is always there. And of course, confusion on what's being communicated or what's being asked of them. There's a change in senses in people with dementia, how they're perceiving the world. So what they hear, how they're hearing it, what they're seeing or how they're seeing something, how they're feeling stuff as well. It's different. It's not that they don't hear it, see it, or feel it, smell it, or taste it. It's just different because of the changes that are happening in the brain. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And it could just be an overall fear of showering and bathing, kind of going to the changing in the five senses. But if they probably don't see the water, visually see it, but they feel it, all of a sudden it might not feel like it used to, or it might not feel like it does to you and I. It can feel like it's stinging my skin, or it's a really hard pressure, and that makes me uncomfortable and I don't like it. And they will associate that feeling of uncomfortable with this environment, and they'll remember that. They may not remember specifically, I didn't like that shower last time because the pressure was too hard, or the temperature was too hot. But I know I didn't like it and I'm not going back in there. Something like that. So some best tips to help them set themselves up for success. One thing just to think about ongoing is just making sure they're stimulated in all areas of the brain as best we can. And we want to encourage and prolong independence. We don't want to take stuff away from them, because when we start to take things away that they can still do, they're going to lose it much faster. So we want to prolong independence and dignity, just like we would want for ourselves, right? And when we're stimulating all areas of the brain or engaging, we want to make sure we're matching the current abilities to the activity. And what I mean by this is my current ability might not be putting a whole big puzzle together. I might not be able to logically think through and organize this 60-piece puzzle. But I can do a 10-piece puzzle and it's just matching colors as opposed to a picture, but I'm putting these colors together. So I'm doing the activity that still engages my brain, but it's matching, it's matching my current ability level. And we want to make sure and do that throughout the course of the disease, and all quality of life will be better at that point. And also making sure we're working the muscle groups to help them physically still be able to take care of themselves. And I'm talking large muscle groups and fine motor skills. And this can be anything from puzzle pieces, right? I'm going to put puzzle pieces together, whether it's stacking them or matching colors, or it's screwing on lids or unscrewing lids. That's the small fine motor skills to kind of keeping that intact as long as possible, putting Tupperware lids on and off Tupperware. To the larger muscle groups is I need you to reach up here and grab that cup. Or can you safely, bend over in your chair and grab this thing off the floor? Removing big or large muscle groups to keep them physically engaged and physically active. We want to make sure and stick to a routine, and this is very important from the very early stages all the way to the very end stages. A manageable daily routine, there's a familiarity to it, there's a feeling of safety and security in a routine. And so we want to make sure in that routine we're doing these self-care activities around the same time every day. So if I'm showering every morning, I want to make sure that when it's time to do a bath, it's in the morning time, as opposed to mixing it up and just fitting it in through the day as we can, because it's too spontaneous and too unorganized, and it would be more confusing for somebody with dementia. And we want to make sure that the environment is safe, right? It's a familiar environment. When they walk into the restroom, the bathroom, or they walk into the kitchen or the bedroom, they know what this area is, and it's functional. So when I go into the bathroom, I know the sink area, I know what to do because it's set up in a safe way. I don't have razors and electric cords out because that's not as safe, but I do have a minimal thing. Maybe if I want them to brush their teeth, I just have the toothpaste and the toothbrush out on the sink. So that's a functional, it's familiar, it's safe, but also making sure the environment is friendly. It's a place I want to go into. And when we're talking about bathrooms, that means it needs to be warm. We'll talk more about that, but just make sure it is warm, warm, warm in there for an individual with dementia. And to use aids, start incorporating aids in there, and we'll talk about some aids to use in the bathroom in a second. Another thing is, and we're going to talk more about these, but our approach and our communication are going to be the most important. How we approach somebody to take a shower and how we communicate with them throughout the whole process will be really going to make or break the situation or make or break the activity. Maintaining that dignity and being respectful throughout the whole thing. Knowing that their senses are changing and they can be confused about their surroundings, and we'll talk more about this. And take your time. We need to go at the same pace as somebody with dementia. And this is going to be slower than what you're used to. So it might be I've got to take a few deep breaths and know that if I'm helping with bath time, I'm just going to know this might take a little bit longer than I want it to, but that's okay because we're doing it for my loved one. I'm not doing it just to move on to the next thing. Keep to the routine and their rituals. So that's the routine I was talking about, but also the rituals. Is there a ritual that they have when they get into the shower? You know, do they wash their hair first and then their body? Or do they shave at the sink and then get into the shower? What are those rituals that they have done all their lives? We all have those. Sometimes we have to think about it. But what are those things they continuously do? And using verbiage and nonverbal body language that is a team-like approach. So let's do this together. Can you help me? I'm so glad we're doing this together. It's not a me telling you what to do. Not a bossy thing, but it's a team effort, right? Encourage and reassure throughout the whole activity. And I would say overdo it. Any kind of overdoing it is really going to help their confidence and really help secure trust in your relationship. Have everything ready. When you get into the shower and you finally get dad in there, and then you realize, oh, I left the towels in the dryer, and then you've got to leave to go get those towels, then you might have just lost them right there. So make sure you have everything ready and then start your approach to getting them into the shower. And of course, being flexible and patient. I'm sure you all have that down to a science and you do it every day, all day. But knowing that this is difficult for both of you. It's very difficult for both of you, both parties. With approach and communication, just quickly, I want to say for any self-care activity or any activity or engagement with your loved one, is you want to make sure the cues you're using are going to promote independence, but also promote success. So we really want to have those verbal cues and visual cues at the same time. And it comes down to, I want to make sure I'm using more visual cues or more acting stuff out or showing them how to do something and less words. We still want to use words and instruct them and tell them what we're going to do next, but we don't need a lot of filler. It's just one thought at a time, and make sure they process that, and then you move on to the next instruction or to the next step. You can continue to use their name to gain their attention back if you need to, but also making sure that you're acting it out. You're using your hands to talk with, or your whole body to communicate with. This can be, you know, we're gonna go get our hair washed. Oh, it's gonna feel so good. We're gonna get washed up, and then we're gonna eat our ice cream. You know, it's demonstrating for them what you want them to do. They're gonna pick up on those visual cues way quicker than they're gonna be able to process the content or the words that you use. And then the last thing you wanna do is a touch cue. If they're not responding to verbal or visual cues, then you wanna do those touch cues or start to physically help them with the activity. And you want to have permission before you touch them, right? So you go in for a handshake, you hold their hand, and now you've already connected. So then you can get into maybe helping them take their pants off, right? Or helping them get their shirt off, or helping them with the soap and washing their own body, but they're engaged in the activity and so are you. We always want to keep it simple and enjoyable. So this is, when you're getting everything ready for it, do you also need something there to make it inviting, make it a friendly environment. Maybe you do have some aromatherapy going on, or you use the soap or shampoos and use that as a sense. Smell this, how good that smells. That smells great. Or you have music, some soft music going on in the background. Maybe you have bubbles. Maybe that is something that will help distract them. Or a bath accessory, hold the washcloth or hold one of those loofah sponges and have them be in charge of that. Or it might even be something like cups that are in there so they can, it can be a distraction, but can it also just be something that's fun if they're pouring water from one cup to the next or little things like that. We want to keep it safe. We want to make sure that, again, you have everything ready. If you are physically assisting somebody in the shower, you want to make sure that there's a shower bench in there for them to sit on. So you're both not in there with the chance of falling and somebody falling on top of each other. You want to make sure that there's a handheld shower head, and I'm going to show you some pictures of what these aids are. And you also want to, on some different slide, but have a chair in the bathroom outside of the shower if there's room for them to be able to sit down on and take their clothes on or put their clothes off. Take their clothes off or put their clothes on. If there's not room for an extra chair or bench in the actual bathroom, then you can put the toilet seat down and use the toilet as a chair. Just make sure it's safe and it's secure. And you want to have a no-slip cover on it too. If they want to wear their glasses or their hearing aids, then let them wear them. Just clean them off later on, or make sure you don't get water in the hearing aids. If it helps them see better and hear better, then we want to do that for them. And then let's ask what the roles are there. Who's bathing who? Or who's assisting who in the shower? Is it a child helping a parent? Is it a son helping a mom? Is it a brother helping a brother? Is a son helping a dad? Are there same sex, different sex? Because that can play a factor into it. And really just kind of ask yourself, if you needed help with a shower, who would you allow to help you? And honestly think about that, because you might think, oh gosh, I sure wouldn't want my, brother helping me at all. But I might get my sister-in-law. I might allow that. Okay. And giving step-by-step instructions. So this is, I'm so sorry. This is one thought at a time, and we're going to tell them what we're going to do next. And also with those instructions, it's an encouragement and the praise. You're doing such a great job. Thank you so much. Isn't this fun? And of course, act out the instructions. Making the bathroom inviting or comfortable. Turn up the heat. So I said that earlier, you wanted to make sure it's warm. And if you are assisting somebody in the shower, you probably want to have it warm enough to where you're sweating a little bit, because they're going to be warm. People with dementia, their body temperatures are not as regulated as they once were, and they're generally operate a little bit colder. So if they're going to be exposed, we want to make sure it's really warm in there. Right? For a full bath, you really only need to stay hygienically clean, really 2 to 3 baths a week, unless there is incontinence or they're sweating or something else there. If there is like sweating or there was an accident, right? They're maybe not fully incontinent, but there was an accident and you're having a hard time getting them to the bath, you can just clean certain areas, and you can use the sink to clean the hair. A lot of us might remember that's what we did when we were children anyway, is mom and dad washed our hair in the sink. So that might be more inviting anyway. You can use a portable shower. You can just clean up private areas while they're in their chair or while they're in bed. So it's not you're having to fight them getting into the bath or the shower every day. And there's obviously different bathing techniques. There are some things, it's called comfort bath. You can get these at Walgreens or CVS or Walmart, but it's a package. It comes in a blue package, and it is a full hygienic bath. But there's six or 9 sheets that come in there, and you put it in the microwave, so you warm it up a little bit, and they're wet, but you can clean somebody with those cloths hygienically without having to get into a shower. There's also a shower cap that you can use in no-rinse shower shampoo for your hair. And I'll type that into chat here in just a second. Another thing to think about is as you're drying them off, it might hurt them to rub the skin, so you want to pat dry the skin. So that might have been something that was a challenge. They start to fight you with that. You make sure they participate in every step that they can participate in. So if it is, they can still wash most of their body, then make sure they're holding the washcloth and they're washing most of their body. Maybe you just need to be in there and make sure and help them step by step. Physically, if they can't do that, maybe you hold their hand, they have the washcloth, you held their hand, and you are moving their hand, but they're still physically engaged in that activity, and that can be more helpful. Another great thing to do is to keep them covered the entire time. And so if you can get somebody to take their clothes off before, that's great, but sometimes you can't, and that's okay. You can get somebody in the shower and get their clothes wet. That's fine, the clothes will dry. And a lot of times if somebody's in the shower and their clothes start to become wet and heavy, they become uncomfortable, so it's more easy to get them to take them off anyway. Let's get those uncomfortable clothes, cold, uncomfortable clothes off of you. But you can also just put towels over them. You can put a towel over their shoulders so it's covering their front, and you can put a towel over their lap. And they can be covered the entire time, and you can just wash underneath those towels, or they can get under there and wash underneath those towels too. And that way they are not exposed, and it's safe, and they're still getting clean. So here are some bathing aids. Right here you have the handheld shower head, but there's a detachable suction cup holder. So this is really going to be great for your back if you're helping, so you're not having to constantly reach up to get the shower head. But you can put that suction cup shower head holder right next to the faucet. So it's easier for you to grab, but it's also, for a lot of individuals, that's where the water is supposed to come out. So this might be better on their senses, or better them understanding where they're at, as opposed from water to coming up here and it's hitting me on the head. It's coming out where the faucet is. The middle picture, I just gave you a picture of grab bars. I want to say grab bars need to be installed properly. Towel racks are not grab bars, and there are such things as suction cup grab bars, and I don't suggest those either because they aren't 100% foolproof. A lot of falls happen in the bathroom, and we want to make sure we keep it as safe as we possibly can. The bottom left corner there is a shower bench example, but also a transfer chair. So if you have a tub you got to step over, you can have them sit down first, and then they're seated the whole time, and you just move their legs over the shower lid, or the tub, excuse me, tub lid. But then there's also these long-handled bath accessories. So it's the washcloth that's long-handled. You can use gloves, so they can just, maybe they don't know what a washcloth is, or you just put gloves on there with soap on them, and they're just kind of washing themselves. These are aids that help them continue to bathe themselves for as long as possible, especially if they're having some mobility issues. And just a few other things. Keep your phone either right outside the bathroom door or keep it within arm's length, just in case there is a fall or an accident. You can easily grab that phone, or you don't want to have to completely leave the person if they're injured or scared, and then have to come back. Or maybe y'all both fell, and you want to make sure you can grab that phone real quickly. Get an automatic light that comes on, especially at night, a night light that just comes on automatically so they see where they're at. Remove any door locks. That's just general safety within the bathroom. And you want to use no-slip rugs in the shower, or maybe even outside the shower, but when it's not shower time, hang them up, because they can still be in the way and cause clutter, and sometimes not be safe if they're not being used right then. Talked about the shower bench and the shower chair, and really just lastly, declutter. Cute decorations and all these fun little things are cute. Plants, extra toiletries around, the nice little soaps, they are nice, and they can be inviting, but too much can be too confusing, and it can be frustrating, and it can also, they don't know what to do with it, right? And if it's not being used, go ahead and take it out. So if you do have like the shaving gel and the toothpaste and the lotion out on the bathroom sink, put them away in the drawer and just have one out at a time that you need to use. I know one family, one gentleman that is forever getting the toothpaste and putting it on as a shaving gel, because he sees it, it's in a tube, it's about the same color, and he thinks this is shaving stuff and he's shaving with the toothpaste. So just to help them be successful, just have it out as it needs to be out. And there was a chat here. It says, I know the tub floor can be very slippery. Do you suggest a non-skid mat? And I do, absolutely. Even if they're seated, use that non-skid mat in the tub, because it's going to help them getting up and out, whether they're seated or sitting down or standing up, drying off. It's also safer for you. Even in the shower though, or in the tub, if it's not being used, you might want to go ahead and hang it up or put it away, unless you have a shower curtain, something there, because it might be something that they get curious about and start to grab at and play with if it's not being used. No. So, and the last thing I'll say is you've got to be able to take care of yourself, take breaks, do this self-care to have the patience and the energy and even the strength to help your loved one with bathing, and also other self-care activities. It gets much more overwhelming when we're starting to having to physically assist our loved ones with these large self-care activities, and we need to be able to take care of ourselves to come back and have the energy and resilience to do it time and time again. And you have our information there. Again, I will send you these slides. But if there are any questions, concerns, comments, what you've done, haven't done, please ask. Hi, Holly.
Hi, I made it just in time. I wanted to add something on those the mats that we put down. I even used them in a walk-in shower under the bench, the shower bench, and I put 2 of them so that I could stand on one so that I'm not slipping and sliding, and then so that the bench, helping to even secure the bench a little bit more. So mine was big enough that I was able to put 2 of the mats side by side.
Right. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. There is a chat. So my 90-year-old mom does not want to take a shower. She is fine when she is in, but getting her in there is a real problem. Yes. A lot of things to try. Making the bathroom kind of a spa area, setting it up to where it's inviting. It's a place I kind of want to go check out. What's that music? What's that smell? Oh, it's so nice and warm in there. And having it set up. If you're using I'll say this, if you're doing a tub bath, go ahead and have the water full or the tub filled and have that ready already. So it might be, you said shower, but you can get it in there to see the bath. I want you to show you this. Doesn't that look so great? Feel the water. Do you want to get in here? You want to try it out? I've known some people I know my grandfather and some other people to get the gentleman into the shower. I know that we had to kind of rig the shower head to where it wasn't working. So we needed him to come help us fix the shower head. And if you can get in there and fix that shower head and just kind of twist it a little bit, and then the water started coming out. Oh my gosh, you fixed it. Thank you so much, so much. Oh, let's get you out of these wet clothes. And they're in there, right? And they're okay as they're going on. So it's just kind of doing some creativity to get them in the shower and just trying something over and over and over again. Does anybody have any suggestions or what y'all use to get your loved one to get actually in the shower? Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches to try for this, and I will say, if it's becoming a fight or it's escalating, or their frustration or agitation is getting bigger and bigger, as we try, we need to take a step back and say, okay, you're right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push this, I'm not trying to aggravate you, forgive me. And then try back in 30 minutes and try something else. And you should put their ice cream afterwards. Yeah, use an incentive for sure. Absolutely. Or even if it is, we're getting ready to go to church or it's dinner time. Because think back to when they were kids and what got them into the show. Was it we're going to have ice cream afterwards? Or was it we got to get cleaned up for dinner? We got to get cleaned up for church. We're having visitors come over. Now, if you say something, if you promise something like visitors are coming over or ice cream, you need to deliver on that. But it can work for sure. Well, I thank y'all so much. We're a few minutes over. I'm going to email the slides and the recording to everybody. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email or call Holly and I. And we can chat offline or about just help brainstorm particular ways for your situation, for anything that you need. So, and we will, if you want the information for our support group, please let me know. And then also our programs next week. We do have, Holly will be talking about heartbreak and isolation and the cost of that next Tuesday at 2. We continue that registration information. Of course, we have our Stress Less, the James L. West on Mondays at 1. Support groups Friday and Wednesday of every week. And I think that's it for next week. So, but we'll send you the calendar programs too. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.